Hello and welcome to Kettle and Bones, where we make really delicious, really healthy food. And you can too. In this episode, we're making one of the most popular low-carb foods that there is, and for good reason. This can reopen the door to many of the dishes you probably thought you'd have to give up when you said goodbye to grains. This is a tasty and highly versatile low-carb staple. There are a bazillion recipes for this on the internet. Say hello to number bazillion and one, we're making classic Cloudbread. Let's get cooking. Cloudbread is made from two main ingredients, eggs and cream cheese. I have heard that it can also be made with yogurt instead of cream cheese, but I haven't tried this myself. If you can, it's a good idea to leave these ingredients out for an hour or so before you start, so they're not cold straight from the fridge. I'm making a big batch today, so I'm using a dozen eggs and two 8-ounce packages of cream cheese. If you want to start with a smaller batch to see if you even like Cloudbread, just start with 3 eggs and half of the cream cheese package, or 6 eggs and 1 whole package. This is why arithmetic matters, kids. We're prepping the eggs first. We need to separate the egg whites from the yolks. The very easiest way to do this, in my opinion, is to gently crack the eggs whole into your first bowl and then carefully remove the yolks. This method is not too time-consuming and it works really well if you are gentle when you crack the eggs. If you doubt your ability to keep the yolks whole, you should use our second method, which we'll get to in a moment. It's really important that your egg white bowl doesn't have remnants of a broken yolk in it. I'm just gently tapping on the edge of the bowl, making fine cracks around the middle of the egg. Then I turn the egg over so the yolk is resting on the bottom, away from where I'm inserting my thumbs to separate the two halves. If that method makes you nervous, another way is the half shell method, where you crack the egg and pass the yolk back and forth between the two halves of the shell. The white of the egg should fall away into the bowl as you do this. This yolk actually did break, but I was still able to avoid getting any in the egg white bowl. If you went with our first method, you'll now need to gently lift the yolks out of the egg whites. The easiest and probably gentlest way to do this is by hand, passing them back and forth so the white of the egg falls away into the bowl. This can be done with a slotted spoon, but a metal or plastic utensil will never be as soft and gentle as the loving hands of the cook. If you do have one that breaks, just get the whole thing over to the yolks bowl ASAP. It's not a big deal if the yolks bowl has some egg white in it. If you have yolk bits in the egg whites bowl, however, that's not great for this next part. We are going to add a bit of salt for flavor. Oh, and we're also adding some cream of tartar. Cream of tartar is a great stabilizer. It's going to help stabilize our egg whites as we whip them into meringue. It will further help our final mixture retain air and keep it from deflating as we mix everything together. If you don't have it, this recipe will still give you a workable bread substitute, but it won't be quite as light and airy as the cream of tartar version. Ah, memories. Making this recipe again reminds me of the first few times I made Cloudbread. I actually did it by hand with a wire whisk. It is possible to do this, of course, but it's just an insane amount of time spent mixing, trying to get your meringue into stiff peaks, and I just can't recommend it unless you're looking for some masochistic new forearm workout. Just use a hand mixer or a stand mixer. Making Cloudbread is actually the reason I bought this hand mixer in the first place. Even with the aid of a mechanical mixer, this is probably going to feel like a lot. Just keep at it. We're making meringue here. Almost there. Keep going. You need to keep going until the egg whites are as stiff as you can make them. You should be able to make little soft serve ice cream sundae curlicues with your whisk. That's when you know it's ready. Looking good. You can set the meringue aside, and now it's time to work on our yolks. Our cream cheese has sat out for a bit, so it's nice and soft. You could also soften it in the microwave on low power if you don't have time to wait. I'm going to mix this with the hand mixer as well, but I don't want big chunks of cream cheese flying around the kitchen, so I'm breaking it up a bit before I do that. And I'll start by just pulsing the hand blender a bit to break up any large remaining cream cheese deposits, and then I'll mix well for about a minute or so. The smoother and fluffier our batter is, the lighter and softer our finished result will be. So mix well. After we have this very well mixed, we're adding in a small amount of baking powder, probably about a teaspoon, followed by some psyllium husk powder. I'd say about a tablespoon and a half. And let's add a few shakes of cream of tartar to this half of the mix as well, since we also want to keep this side as light and airy as possible. Have you noticed by now that we're not really that into exact measurements here? I'm looking for a general consistency in the batter, so if I need to add more of anything later, I will. I encourage you to get in the habit of cooking by look, feel, and taste, so that you're making food that is based on your personal flavor preferences, rather than on a recipe that may have been written by someone who doesn't have the same preferences as you. So as you can see, we're mixing once again with the hand blender, incorporating everything and whipping as much air into this as we can. Both our bowls of ingredients are now ready. The yolk bowl is thoroughly mixed, the egg white bowl is airy and fluffy. It's now time to combine these. Very gently, lift the egg whites and place them in the other bowl, and then we're going to carefully fold them into the yolk mixture. Don't stir aggressively here. If you're too energetic with your stirring, you will deflate the egg whites and your cloudbread will be pancake-ish, not delicate and fluffy. Keep folding in the egg whites, 1 spoonful at a time. Patience is a virtue, and whatever you do, don't use a whisk for this. A whisk would knock the air out of this in a heartbeat. When you have completely reunited the egg whites with the yolks, you'll have this light yellow, thick, foamy batter. This is looking perfect. Now onto parchment-lined baking sheets, we are placing our batter for cooking. I'm going to make some cloudbread in 2 of my favorite styles today. The first will be buns or rolls, so I'm placing 6 large dollops of batter evenly spaced from one another. These are going to rise and expand a little bit as they cook, but if you did a good job of whipping the egg whites and you didn't deflate them during the mixing process, these should be thick enough that they don't run together too much. And this is going into a preheated 325 degree Fahrenheit oven, that's about 163 degrees Celsius, for about 20 minutes. That may seem like a low cooking temperature for bread, and for traditional bread it is, but remember this is made from egg and cream cheese, and they won't hold up to heat the same way that wheat flour would. On the second baking sheet, I'm going to make a sheet of cloudbread that I can then cut into slices. Again, this is pretty thick batter, so you'll need to use the back of your spoon to gently spread it to the edges of this parchment paper. And this lovely rectangle will join its circular brothers and sisters in the oven. I do recommend you keep an eye on these the first time you make them because every oven is different, but it usually takes about 20 minutes in mine to get just a bit of nice browning, just like this. So now I've removed my circular buns from the oven, tee-hee, and moved my rectangular batch up to the top rack to finish. Let's slide the parchment paper off the baking sheet to cool, and that baking sheet is ready for round 2. Parchment paper, batter, oven. You may have noticed a couple of my bun-style pieces did come together a bit. Just use a bench scraper or a kitchen knife to gently separate them, no biggie. Once these have cooled enough to touch, go ahead and gently peel these off the parchment paper so they can cool evenly on a wire rack. Now these look and feel just right. They're soft, light, and pliable. Perfect conditions for building sandwich greatness. Our rectangular sheet of cloudbread is just coming up on the 20-minute mark. Let's see how it's doing. Excellent. Let's get the parchment paper off the baking tray. And once this has cooled a few minutes, we can slice this into the sizes of our choice. I find that a pizza cutter is the gentlest cutting implement that works here. This is fairly delicate. I'm going to go with 3 columns, if you will, by 4 rows, but slice them however you like. If, for example, you want to leave some of these longer to wrap around an uncured hot dog or sausage, that's a great idea. Let these cool thoroughly before you put them away because steamy heat and moisture will contribute to sogginess and stickiness. If you're really hardcore, you can separate these with little squares of parchment paper to prevent slices from sticking together. I've never personally had a serious problem with this, but I have seen some reviews of Cloudbread that complain about slices sticking together. If you made your sheet really thin slices might be more likely to tear as they're peeled apart after storage. These slices that we made today look substantial enough. I don't think we'll have that problem. One other major complaint that you might hear about Cloudbread is that, oh, it's soggy, it's floppy, it tastes like wet eggs, it's like an eggy, gross pancake. If that has been your experience, I will humbly suggest that you haven't been doing Cloudbread properly. One simple step that alleviates 99.9% of the above-mentioned problems is toasting it. Just a little. I'm using toast setting number 2 in my well-seasoned toaster oven. Believe it or not, you can actually get a toast-like exterior that is browned and crispy if that's what you're going for. A really well-toasted slice of Cloudbread isn't ideal for sandwiches, in my opinion, because it tends to crumble. But if you just want something mildly crusty and flaky to spread peanut butter on, take it to toaster level 5, or whatever your toaster's unit of toastiness is. So what else can we do with these wonderful little clouds of bread-like goodness? How about a little mayo and low-sugar ketchup? Onion? Lettuce? Tomato? Beautiful smash burger patty. This is just beef, salt, pepper, and cheese topped with pickled jalapenos. Yes, this is awesome. Look at that. Let's try another one. How about mayo, uncured ham, sliced turkey breast, a little coleslaw, some white cheddar cheese, and boom! That's lunch. Delicious. Okay, one more. Let's go with pesto and some, ooh, that's our tender turkey meatloaf with marinara sauce. Add some slices of mozzarella cheese, some more of that crunchy coleslaw, and that's an incredible Italian meatloaf sandwich. All the ingredients were already in the fridge. That took no time to make. I really hope that I've illustrated how Cloudbread, properly used, can help you answer the call if you've been craving sandwiches, but you've cut bread out of your diet. By the way, if you're wondering why the hamburger isn't featured here too, it's because I ate it. I was making the rest of the Cloudbread, I was thinking about the sandwiches, I got hungry, and I ate the hamburger before I thought to include it in the final shot. But there you go. Just as good. So right now I want you to look me in the eye and tell me that if you were eating like this every day, you'd somehow still feel deprived. Go ahead. That's what I thought. Stay with Kettle and Bones for many, many more delicious ways to fill that sandwich-shaped hole inside you, including variations that can make even this recipe better. I know, I can't believe it either. But for now, just enjoy your classic Cloudbread.